Yo, 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 happy Friday, happy Friday, happy Friday, everyone. My name is Justin Moore. I'm the founder of Creator Wizard, where I teach you how to find and negotiate your dream sponsorships. Back at you with another Friday live stream. Excited to be here. I took a little hiatus last week because I took my wife for a little getaway to Sedona for her birthday, Sedona, Arizona. And it was absolutely beautiful, beautiful weather. We did off-road ATVing. We did the whole thing. We got massages. We hung out by the pool. It was childless, which was, a nice little break from the normal routine. So it was a lot of fun. So happy to be back here. Let me know where you're tuning in from in the chat. I am live on a zillion different platforms: YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. Did I say YouTube? I probably did. Hey, what's up, fourth born child tuning in from the Philippines? Good to see you. Let me pull up my IG chat as well to see who's tuning in there. We've got Need the Recipe. What's going on? I think your name is Bree. Correct me if I'm wrong. Bree, good to see you here. We've got Having Fun with Fashion. We've got a bunch of people tuning in from TikTok, from PNW. Is that Pacific Northwest? I'm assuming it is. We've got Durag Dev the Goat right back at it. What's going on, dude? Good to see you. We got Cal Barton tuning in from NYC, Best Boy Benson, Jake from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I've always wanted to go to Chattanooga. I've heard it's beautiful. We've got Alex Chan Tennis tuning in. Man, we got people coming out today from all over. Good to see y'all here. And so today I'm excited to talk about something which I actually really have not seen a lot of videos on or articles about, or really anyone talking about this. But we're talking about 7 sponsorship conversion tactics so that brands hire you again. A lot of creators think they really don't think about this aspect of sponsorships and how impactful it can be to winning you repeat business, right? So if you think about this, a lot of people think about the pitching phase or the negotiating phase, or like, how can I just win a lot more deals? But and so that's kind of the client acquisition side of working with brands. But there's this whole other topic, which is kind of on the back end of sponsorships, which is how do you ensure that the sponsorships, let's say you win the deal, how do you ensure that the sponsorships that you ultimately do in partnership with brands go well, right? Because that is really going to be the number one factor, or oftentimes the largest factor in determining whether that brand hires you again or not, right? So if you sell a bunch of products, or you drive a bunch of views, or you drive a bunch of downloads to their app, right? So that's really what's ultimately going to determine whether the brand says, okay, we worked with 10 people, but Justin, we partnered with him and he really moved the needle for us, right? And so I wanted to kind of talk about ways in which you can ensure that the sponsorships that you do actually perform, right? There's not enough time spent in this area, I think. And so I wanted to kind of meditate about this topic first, right? So imagine you opened your email and a brand said to you, only a few people clicked on your link and no one purchased the product, right? And then cue your stomach drop and existential dread, right? So have you ever gotten a message like that from a brand after doing a sponsorship? I mean, what on earth do you say back to something like that, right? So whether you have a podcast or a YouTube channel, a TikTok, or you create content basically on any platform, one of your top priorities when doing a partnership should be ensuring that you're able to drive results for the brand so that they want to hire you again, right? But how? Well, let's talk about a couple different aspects of this, right? So first, I want to talk about setting the course right when it comes to doing sponsorships with a brand. So imagine this, okay? A pilot from San Francisco sits down in the flight deck. She takes off and sets a course for Washington, D.C., okay? 6 hours later, she lands safely in the capital. Now, imagine she made the same flight again, but this time she miscalculates her initial trajectory by just 1 degree. Now, 6 hours later, she finds herself in Baltimore, more than 40 miles away from DC. Right? And so the point is that a small miscalculation can result in a very significant gulf, which brings me back to sponsorships, right? And the importance of who you choose to partner up with, because even a slight misalignment here, right, means that you, the brand, and your audience are going to be at odds down the line. So no matter how much you try and apply these other aspects that we're going to talk about, there's still going to be that chasm, right? And so the best way to ensure that you're going to arrive at the right destination is to consider your audience's psychographics, because once you understand what motivates them, what keeps them up at night, right, you can ensure that your ad integration with this brand is going to speak directly to the outcome that they want. Because remember, you're selling a transformation, not a list of features. And you're probably thinking, but Justin, I'm just talking about a natural deodorant brand on my Instagram. What the hell does that have to do with me? Pardon my French, right? Well, whether you realize it or not, your smelly pitted audience needs to feel seen through something called the hero's journey. Okay, so what does the hero's journey have to do with sponsorships? Okay, well, you might be familiar with this concept, and you'll have definitely seen it in movies, by the way. And it's a common storytelling technique where we see the transformation of a character as they undergo every stage of this hero's journey wheel. Okay, and so as a result, we feel closer to them, and we start to put ourselves in their shoes, and so their success becomes ours. And so that brings me back to your sponsorship, right? So it's far easier for your audience to envision the transformation that the brand is offering when you include a case study, okay? And so what is a case study? You're probably thinking like, isn't that something that I would make for a brand? No, you actually ask the brand. You say, hey, do you have any sort of examples of how your brand or your product or your service has helped someone else? It doesn't have to be another creator. It could just be a normal consumer. Give me some specific examples. So rather than rattling off the features and the benefits of the product and all that good stuff, no. Oh, you have a case study of like, oh my gosh, I was using your natural deodorant and my life changed. I no longer worried about riding the subway and having to like hold my hand up here, or I was no longer worried about when I'm at a party or in a bar or something, people smelling my pits when they're standing next to me, right? Like, and this person is named Sarah and they're 29 years old and they live in Baltimore or whatever, right? It's like a very specific example. Stories sell, right? And so it's kind of crazy to me that brands don't always offer these types of things up because it's a guaranteed conversion booster for your integration, right? If you've ever studied copywriting, this is one of the major pillars of learning how to be, write more compelling copy, write more compelling prose is being able to be relevant, telling stories, right? And so you need to proactively ask if there are any case studies that you can include, right? And explain to the brand why you believe it's going to boost the campaign's effectiveness. Okay, so I want to just take a quick pause here and acknowledge we've got Beastly Fame NYC, Lover Girly 1, we've got Black Geezy 13, ZZ Jen, Pretty Perception. Thanks for tuning in on IG. We've got a bunch of folks on TikTok as well. Just a Florida Girl. We've got Hey, it's Ash 72, I believe. We've got Simply Murray. Greetings from Sacramento, California. Good to see you here. As a reminder, we're going to be doing a bunch of Q&A questions, any questions you have about sponsorships, negotiations, brand deals, etc. Towards the end of this live stream, or a little bit later in terms of the live stream. And so make sure to drop any questions you have in the chat. We've got Erica Bates tuning in all the way from South Carolina. Good to see you, Erica. Okay, so what we're talking, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about 7 sponsorship conversion tactics so that brands actually hire you again. So let's move on. So I want to talk about Black Friday when it comes to sponsorship conversions, okay? This is FOMO personified. Why, in a nutshell, do people behave like this on Black Friday? They go crazy, right? Well, it has to do with perceived value and time sensitivity. People know that a bunch of stuff they want is going to be available on discount, but only if they act now, right? So why is this relevant? Because you want to create that same sense of urgency in your next sponsorship. So when your audience is feeling FOMO, they're more likely to take action. So if the brand hasn't already done this, you should be asking them for some sort of promo code or discount code, or you basically say, hey, let's time bound this promotion or time bound this offer, and you can explain to the brand why that's going to be likely to improve the performance of the campaign, right? And by the way, that's exactly why in some of my recent podcast integrations with ConvertKit, who is the title sponsor of my podcast, I highlight, for example, the discounted rate for the conference that I was promoting, the Craft and Commerce conference, and I specifically mentioned that tickets are going fast, right? And so I think let me actually just do a quick divergence here, or kind of somewhat related tangent of a real life scenario of something that's happened to us quite a few times over the course of our creator journey, my wife and I, when we have done sponsorships. So By the same token, if you provide a discount code and it goes well and the brand's really thrilled and you move a bunch of product, that's great. But what about the flip side of that scenario? Okay, when the brand does actually provide you a promo code, but something actually bad happens. For example, let's say the brand provides you a promo code and you're ready to post, the content gets approved, yada, 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 right? You know, the caption's been approved, you've drafted that, you've provided it to the brand, they've provided feedback and they've said, oh, looks good, sounds great, let's do it. Good, you can post on Saturday, let's say, whatever. And so this is a real life scenario where my wife and I were working with a brand. All that had happened. Everything was approved. And we said, okay, we're going to post it on Saturday. So we go and we make the post. Everything's live. And then all of a sudden, our comment sections got flooded by all these people saying, oh, this is so awesome, but the promo code's not working. I can't get the discount. You said I could get 25% off. Like, what's going on here? Can you check it? And sure enough, we go and we look and we plug in that promo code into the brand's website and it says promo code invalid. No matter what we tried, different, we did caps lock, we did lowercase, we tried everything that we could. And for some reason, the promo code was not valid. And so we frantically emailed the brand. But remember, again, this is a Saturday or a Sunday, or it was the weekend. I remember this specifically. And oh my gosh, trying to, freak out. And so, and no response, right? It's the weekend. The brand is like checked out basically. But meanwhile, we're getting literally hundreds of comments from people saying we cannot utilize this promo code. And so then, of course, Monday morning rolls around. The brand gets back to us. Oh, sorry about that. There was some issue on our end, but it should be working now. But guess what? The time sensitivity of that post, as y'all know, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, or whatever, like that content is basically going to hit for the first, 24, 48 hours. That's really the freshness of the content, right? Like that, like if people aren't able to take action there, if there's any sort of issue, you've lost them basically. Yeah, we could go back and spend all of our time, spend hours going back and replying to all these people. Oh, the promo code's working now, right? But is that tactic really gonna convert all the people that would have had the promo code been valid at the time of that you made the post, right? So these are a lot of kind of minutia and the small tactical details that I talk about in my course, Brand Deal Wizard, of these are the things that you have to think about. The onus is on you as a creator, as a professional creator who is deriving income by working with brands. These are the things that you have to check. Because again, imagine this scenario, we look like idiots to our audience, right? Yeah, you may think, oh, this is the brand's fault. They should have figured out that, this wasn't working. This promo code wasn't working. But now guess what? Fast forward, regardless of whose fault it is, I actually think it's your fault as a creator, right? You should be the one verifying this. Fast forward to the end of this partnership now, and honestly, the results aren't going to look great. Is that brand going to want to hire you again? Regardless of whose fault it was, is that brand going to want to hire you again? No, because you had 200, 300 people, whatever, who didn't take action because the promo code didn't work. And now you're trying to figure out, this campaign, figure out why this brand doesn't want to work with you again. Well, it's because you didn't drive any sales. And you could try to blame them and say, yeah, but you didn't give me the right, the promo code, the discount code wasn't working. That's neither here nor there. There's nothing that you can do about that now, regardless of whose fault it is. And you know what? You're out of partnership now. Maybe you're no longer going to be able to work with that brand anymore. So that sucks. And you don't want that to happen. So by the same token, I just wanted to share this anecdote because this is a real life scenario of things that happen, right? And so it's very important that you think about this stuff, okay? And I just wanted to highlight a comment here from Bree in the chat, Need the Recipe. She said, heck yes, the storytelling aspect is so important. Yeah, and this carries through to not just sponsorships, but anything. If you're selling digital products, courses, memberships, ebooks, whatever it is, you're selling anything, then, it's very, very important that you understand the importance of storytelling and how big of an impact that can have on the ultimate results from the partnership. Lupe Netro says, finally catching you on your live. You're the best in the game. Thank you for all the gems you dropped. Can I get a cha-ching for that? I'm gonna applaud myself 100%. Thank you, Lupe. That really means a lot to me. We got Molly tuning in on the chat. I always remember when you taught us in Brand Deal Wizard, and it saved my ass last year in a partnership. The code didn't work, but I was able to catch it before the content went live. Boom. Thank you, Molly. I appreciate the validation. Good to see you. Stoked to hear that. We've got Nick Hamilton 12 tuning in on the chat. What's going on, Nick? Nick and I had an awesome one-on-one call earlier this week. So good to see you here, Nick. And we got Jenny Lee tuning in on YouTube as well. Let's see. All right, so I've got a few more things I want to mention here before we dive into the Q&A about sponsorships, brand deals, etc. Again, we're talking about conversion tactics that you can utilize as a creator to sell more stuff or drive more conversions when you are working with brands, because ultimately that's why they're going to want to hire you again, right? So let's talk about number 4. So let's talk about more of a subtle strategy when it comes to converting more sales or driving more actions when you do sponsorships with brands. Now, we don't want our integration to come off like a giant sales pitch, right? So what if you could create an ad that didn't feel like an ad? Right. And so there's a lot of examples for, Ryan Trahan, for example, released a recent video that was just an awesome example of seamlessly integrating the product that was sponsoring him and his content. And so he basically very, very lightly tells us that the video is sponsored by Samsung, but the fact that he's literally using the product that he's promoting to shoot the video demonstrates that he legitimately uses it. Right. And so it won't always be possible to make it like super streamlined like that, where you're able to like actually show and use it in the video. But if you can organically relate the ad read to the content that you're already writing or shooting, your audience is going to be more receptive to buying and signing up, right? This leads me to kind of the next item, which is that you can't forget to do all of these things when you interact with me, for example. So can you subscribe to my YouTube channel? Can you check out my podcast? I'm not sure if I asked you to subscribe to that, because it'd be awesome. I also offer one-on-one coaching. I have a course. You should maybe sign up for my newsletter. Maybe you should. Okay. Well, that was a lot of things. How many calls to action was that, what I was just asking you to do? That was like 5, 6 things, right? Whoops. I don't want to do that. Not only was that a terribly non-seamless way of integrating an ad into a piece of content, but it also highlights an even more important lesson, which is that you have to choose one call to action. If you bombard your audience with 5 different choices, decision fatigue means that they're going to do nothing, right? And so if the brand suggests that you should have multiple calls to action, right? You've probably seen this. Oh, we want people to like follow our Instagram or like our Facebook page or like click the link or use the promo code and like, make sure you share it on your stories. And here's the rules to enter the giveaway. And you got to do this, 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 and follow us and like us and share the post and use this hashtag and blah, 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 blah. Your job is to educate them about why this is going to reduce the campaign's effectiveness, right? You know that as a creator because you've done that organically. People are just not going to take action. It seems intuitive, but a lot of brands don't think about this kind of thing. You have to lean into your expertise. You're not just a creator. What I say a lot is you are a consultant. You're helping brands understand that you're doing this stuff day in and day out, and they may not be. Maybe they're just running one campaign a quarter and they don't realize how something as simple as that can tank the effectiveness of a collaboration, right? So the next item I want to talk about is just how important it is to be honest, okay? Glowing, super positive testimonials when you work with the brand are great, but the moment that your audience sees hashtag ad in that caption, or hears you say, oh, thanks to Acme for sponsoring this video, they're going to naturally be more skeptical, right? And so they're going to think, does this creator actually like the brand? Or are they just like saying that because they're getting paid, right? And so a great way to counterbalance that skepticism is by including neutral and even potentially negatives of the brand or the product or the service. Okay. And I'm not saying that you need to roast the product, right? And you got to be advised that some brands are going to freak out even at this suggestion. But think back to the last time that you were reading reviews. Weren't you looking for both pros and cons so that you could make a more informed decision? So explaining this logic to brands often leads to really constructive improvements to how you actually execute the partnership, right? So, it's been really interesting. I did a deal with my agency, Trending Family, when I ran it. And there was a creator who did this with aplomb, right? It was a chef, like a cooking creator, but they were like a chef influencer. And this was a knife brand. Okay. And the creator basically said at the outset, like, look, I am like when I do reviews, when I do product reviews, they're going to be very fair and balanced. Like they're going to be a lot of positive things probably that I'm going to say, but there may be some neutral or negative things that I'm going to say. And the brand was just like, I don't know, but let's give it a shot. Let's try it. And so they went ahead, they did the partnership, they shipped all the products to the creator. the creator sent back a very, very polished video, but there was, in fact, as they said, there were, in fact, some things in there that the brand wasn't super thrilled with. And the brand came back with feedback and they said, hey, can you remove those, that 1 minute of you saying like XYZ, like you're not super thrilled about the product in XYZ, fashion. And the creator came back and they said, hey, I will be happy to remove, these like 2 or 3 things that you asked for, but this one thing here, we need to keep, because I think it's a really critical part of an evaluation. If for professional chefs, they need to know this aspect about, a potential downside of this knife. It's not a negative per se, but it's like something that's really important when you're evaluating a knife set or whatever. I'm not a chef, so I don't know the importance of this, but like we were, it was this kind of tricky situation because the brand didn't want it. But then after some thought, after some conversation with the brand and some education around why it's going to make it a more of a balanced review, the brand basically gave it the go ahead to actually post. And what was so fascinating when this piece of content went live, the comment section was so overwhelmingly positive, and a lot of people specifically called out that aspect. We were like, wow, we really appreciated that even though this was a sponsored review, you gave both pros and cons, and you addressed you were quite balanced in how you evaluated the product. And surprise, surprise, ultimately, people said like, I really appreciated that. And, even though knowing that was like a potential downside, I still went ahead and purchased the product. Right. So I think that like a lot of creators are very nervous about having this conversation with brands, but in my experience, it actually can lead to a much more effective outcome. Okay, so we're almost there, guys. 7 sponsorship conversion tactics so that brands hire you again. So as a reminder, right after this, we're going to do a Q&A. Any questions that you have about sponsorships, negotiations, brand deals, you name it, please drop it in the chat because I'm going to be answering them right after this final point. So another really important exercise when you work with brands is that you need to remove your hat. And so I'm not, okay, so I haven't done my hair today, but so I'm not actually going to remove my hat. But because this whole time you've been wearing your creator hat, you've been figuring out how you, as the conduit between the brand and your audience, you've been thinking about how can you make this integration as appealing as possible. But the most effective way to do this is actually to remove your creator hat completely and look at the integration as a consumer, right? What would make you take action? So by working backwards, it's so much easier to spot the objections that you would actually have and consciously address them in the integration. And then you can, again, reverse engineer it from your audience's perspective. Okay. Sometimes it's very helpful to do this exercise because you're going to think about things that you just wouldn't normally. Okay. And so that's it. 7 sponsorship conversion tactics so that brands hire you again. Was this a good conversation? I hope that it was effective and valuable for y'all because I love talking about some of these kind of in the weeds topics that you don't really think about often. But hopefully it was helpful. And I'm going to take a swig because I was talking for a lot. So yeah, drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat if you have any questions. I'm going to take a swig real quickly. And I am going to read, I think I'm getting some questions here, and let me make a note for myself. Okay. Gil says, I love this. I love this. Approach it as a consumer. Best Boy Benson says very helpful. Super glad to hear it. Glad that this was helpful for y'all. Bree from Need the Recipe has a question. What do you do when a brand doesn't want to pay licensing fees until 6 months of reviewing the metrics of your post? I tried to explain that licensing is not based on performance, it's based on initial use. All right, so I have a really easy tactic for you here, Bree. When a brand says that they don't really want to pay you a licensing fee for your content until they see whether it actually performs, you can actually introduce something that's called optionality into your contract, and you basically say, look, I understand that you may want to repurpose my content to use it for ads or to repurpose on social media or whatever. But if you're not sure whether you want to do this, we can actually put a clause into the contract that says if at a later point down the line you want to license my content and actually repurpose it, then here is the pre-negotiated amount. So let's say, hey, it's going to be 25% of the base deal size for every 30-day period. So if they paid you $10,000 for this piece of content, then they're going to have to pay you $2,500 per month of them running ads or repurposing it or whatever. But you don't have to pay it now, brand. Let's just negotiate this into the contract. This is an optional clause. Let's say it's going to be valid. That rate is going to be valid for, let's say, 12 months. And let's say you come back to me in 4 months down the line and you ultimately were very happy with, the content that I created for you. You can say that you want to exercise that clause. And then you just cut a check to me every 30 days that you're actually utilizing the content. And so I have found this tactic to be quite effective when you work with brands, because then they'll say, okay, yeah, we don't have the budget right now to actually do this, but knowing that we've already pre-negotiated this, we can come back at a later date and say, hey, let's do this. Then it's nice because it's kind of like found money for you. It's like you already did the work and now they're just cutting a check to you to actually utilize it. So this is like a very easy way to overcome this objection from a brand. You have to make it very clear though that they don't get the usage like by default. They cannot use it unless they actually want to execute that clause. But this could potentially be a way around that challenge. So yeah, let me know if that's helpful. Yeah, Bree says, I love that idea. It's very flexible and keeps both parties safe. Thank you, Justin. So helpful. Of course. Yeah, glad to hear that was helpful. We've got a question here from, Simply Murray says, amazing to know all these info. Very helpful. Thank you so much. Of course. Glad to hear that was helpful. We got a question here that I saw from Best Boy Benson. Is there a good way to implement a pay for performance model for brand partnerships? For example, if my video gets X views, then you pay me Y. Yes, absolutely. It's not typically a model that I recommend generally, because a lot of the risk is basically put on you as a creator that you have to perform. But if you know that you can kill it on a particular piece of content or content format, then yeah, you may be able to make actually more money if it's a performance-based model. In fact, there's a creator in my Wizards Guild, my ongoing coaching program, who oftentimes does these types of partnerships because they get lots and lots of views on social media, especially TikTok, and they can drive lots and lots of sales and they have the track record to prove it because they can show Amazon affiliate sales and all this stuff. And so oftentimes they do implement these types of pay per performance model. But the caveat that I'll give here is that if you're not doing millions and millions of views on every video, then it's a little bit more challenging and you have to be a little bit more conservative. And the reason is as follows, is that most brands are always going to want to put some sort of cap on this performance. So they're going to say, okay, yeah, we'll pay you, X, dollars per, CPV or whatever it's going to be, or, let's say 5 cent CPV or something like that, cost per view, up to $5,000 or up to $10,000. Virtually no brand is going to want to have some sort of uncapped partnership with you, because what's going to happen if you get 10 million views, if it goes viral or something, they have basically every brand is going to have a finite budget that they're going to be allocating to influencer marketing in general. And so, that represents a unknown risk for them. If they're working with, you as well as 20 other creators, and they have uncapped deals with all those creators, there's just no way that they could have that risk, because what happens if like everyone goes viral at the same time? That's just like too scary for most brands to stomach. And so most brands are going to want to cap it to some degree. But yeah, if you're confident with your performance and that the brand is like doubtful about, I don't know, like I'm not really going to be willing to pay you $3,000 for one TikTok or one Instagram video or whatever. And the way for you to salvage the deal is to pitch some sort of, performative, performance-based setup. Absolutely. Why not? Why can't you do that? Like I there's nothing wrong with that. However, there's one other type of compensation scheme that you may want to consider in that scenario is what I call a hybrid compensation model, where there is some sort of baseline flat fee that they pay you upfront, and then some sort of sweetener on the back end. So you say, okay, I understand you can't pay me $5,000 for one TikTok, but what if you paid me $2,500 upfront and then, 10% commission on every sale that I generate or something like that. Right. And so, oftentimes some brands may appreciate that you're trying to be creative in terms of the way in which you're coming back to them and trying to make a compromise here to make this partnership work. And they may say, sure, sounds great. Or they may say, how about, that's not going to work, but what about 1,025% sales? Right. So, again, like if that's the thing that ultimately lands you the deal and you wouldn't have gotten it otherwise, by all means, give it a shot. But the other like thing that I really want to emphasize here is that, you have a very, very valuable asset in the relationship that you have built up with your audience over time. Okay. So let's say you have 10,000 followers or 50,000 followers or whatever, right? If a brand comes to you and says, oh, commission only, affiliate only, right? That's the only way in which we're going to compensate you. You are basically saying, okay, sure. I'm going to give you brand. I guess I'm going to give you access to these 50,000 prospective customers. I'm going to give you access to them and you don't have to do anything. You only get upside. If you make sales, I'm going to put my reputation on the line. I'm going to give you an authentic raw testimonial for your brand or your product. And I'm not going to get anything guaranteed in return. I'm going to make this really compelling content for you. I'm going to spend hours filming it and editing it. And you know what? You brand are going to get all the upside of that. You only have to pay me if you make sales. Does that seem like a fair and balanced partnership? Does that seem like something that's mutually beneficial? Because if you do ultimately make, you did all that effort, you did all that work, you exposed this brand to a new swath of your audience that may not have heard it before, you gave them brand awareness, even if it was a conversion focused campaign, right? Does that seem fair and balanced? No. So you have to articulate that to the brand, that there is value in that aspect, that front end work that you have to do to actually even be able to make the pitch to your audience about the brand or the product. Does this make sense? So you cannot discount how important that factor is when it comes to a partnership. We've got Kristen tuning in on the IG chat. What's up, Christian? Kristen, I wanted to just give you a very quick shout out because I saw that I think you launched a course recently about brand partnerships. So congratulations. That's awesome. That's huge. So make sure to click on her username is KBOUSQ in the Instagram chat and check out her new course. That's amazing. I know how much work it is to launch a course. So that's awesome news. Congratulations. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so Best Boy Benson says, is 5 cents per view standard in any way? I like that flat fee plus pay for performance model with a cap on views. Great suggestion. Yeah. So what I teach in my course, I do have a calculator that I design that's a pretty robust, way to kind of calculate all this stuff. But in my experience, the cost per view in terms of the cents per view or whatever differs based on the goal. This is one of the major things that I teach in my programs and content and stuff, is that the amount that you should charge per view in that type of performance model is going to differ based on whether it's a conversion campaign, whether it's a repurposing campaign, or whether it's an awareness campaign. So the brand is going to be willing to pay you generally more per view if it is, let's say, an awareness campaign. And so the range that I have seen is typically it's going to be around the 3-cent CPV for a conversion campaign, around 6.5 cent CPV for a repurposing campaign, and around 10 cents per view for an awareness campaign. But those are just rough benchmarks based on hundreds and hundreds of deals that I've done over the years. But hopefully that helps give you a little bit of a benchmark. But again, every brand is going to be different, but that's just kind of should be a helpful benchmark. Kristen said, "Hey, my friend, thanks for the shout out. Always love listening to your wisdom. Of course. Good to see you. I really enjoyed being on your podcast back in the day, and glad to see you doing awesome things." All right, so let's see. What other questions do you have around brand deals, sponsorships, negotiations? Let's do this. Let me see here. Gil, what's up, Gil? Good to see you, dude. How can we tactfully request data on how sorry, I'm tripping over my words here. Let me take a swig because I'm talking a mile a minute here. All right, here's a question. How can we tactfully request data on how a post or campaign performed? Can we put it in the contract? Basically, how can we know if we are underpricing ourselves in the future? Good question. So if you're trying to figure out a tactful way to ask a brand for the performance of a campaign, hey, how many sales did I generate? How many clicks did we get? How many, people downloaded the app or whatever? The first realization to make is that a lot of brands will not tell you. They're just, no matter what you do, they're going to treat that data as proprietary. They're just going to say, you know what? Sorry, we can't share that. And though that may be frustrating, just understanding that that's the reality of the situation in a lot of, these types of partnerships, the next best, a pivot to make is how can I look at the public data that I have to infer results, right? So you could say, okay, yeah, I guess I may not have sales data, but let me look at what I do have. Maybe I have information. If it was a brand awareness campaign, I have all the data on, the vanity metrics, right? The views, the impressions, the reach, the comments, the shares. Like I have all that data. And that's really what the brand was was thinking was going to be the most important thing about this. Very quick anecdote here. My wife and I did a partnership with Puss in Boots, right? The movie, the Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, the new movie that came out on Peacock Plus. So we did a partnership with them. And the primary KPI, the primary metric that they were asking about, or they said was the goal in the creative brief that they provided to us was, we want to encourage families to stream the new movie when it goes live. That was the goal, like the front and center, that was the goal. And so we didn't, for something like that, when we talk about do like a reel or do like a little post about, hey, look, do a family movie night. That was kind of the theme of it. Do we know how many people ultimately signed up for Peacock Plus or ultimately booted up their TV and watched that movie? We don't actually know, but what we do know? We had tons and tons of comments of people saying oh, thank you so much. Guess what we're watching right now guess what we're watching right now as a family? Or, oh, I'm going to watch that with my family for movie night tonight, or blah, 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 blah. So literally we had tons and tons of those comments, and we just screenshotted the heck out of those and we put together what, this is something I teach in my course called a post-campaign report. And we screenshotted the heck out of all those comments. And so the first page, the previous page to this was, the goal was this, encourage people to stream the movie. And then the next page was results. And we had just a whole long, list or page of screenshots of people saying, hey, we're watching the movie now, right? And so it's this is something that the brand will then forward on to their superiors, or if it's an agency, forward on to the client and say, hey, this campaign with April and Justin went well. Here's proof, right? And so your job as a creator is to create actionable insights, whether it's quantitative or qualitative, that help the brand make a case or help the agency make a case when they're putting together their own internal reporting that this campaign went well. So you may not always have data, to back up oh, you drove this many sales, but you have to be creative in the way in which you tell the story. And by the way, when you put together this story, when you say, hey, this is how the campaign, it's possible that it didn't go so well. Right. And so the angle, the narrative, the story, remember we were talking about the story earlier, the story that you tell in the post-campaign report is that here's a bunch of opportunities for us for the next partnership. We say, hey, here was an area that I think an area of strength for the partnership. Here's some screenshots of comments. Here's some views. Here's some XYZ click-through rate on the link, whatever. But I acknowledge I'm leaning into the fact of a neutral or a negative point of this campaign. There was a bunch of comments of people saying oh, I wish you would have focused on XYZ, or I wish you would have focused on this in the partnership. And so you then say, hey, here was something that I acknowledge we could have done better. And in fact, I think we should do another partnership, another series of posts where we focused on that. We focus on that, right? And so I think it's a very, very important insight here is that you cannot put your head in the sand as a creator and just be oh, I don't know. I want to know if it didn't go so well, right? Because then how are you going to learn? How are you going to learn to do better? In fact, that is the entire theme of today's conversation, right? Is how can you do better? How, I always encourage, go out and read some books on sales, on selling psychology. For better or for worse, as a creator, if you do sponsorships with brands, you are a salesperson. And so you have to get better at telling stories, at how to, tell that hero's journey that we talked about. Have a narrative arc around the content, around how you're doing the integration, not just holding up the product and being you buy this Stanley water cup. It keeps your stuff so cold. No, that's not what you talk about. You say, oh my gosh, I feel so much more energized throughout the day and so much more focused and productive when I can ensure that I have water by my side all the time. It's super cold, and it just keeps me super focused and dialed in throughout the day, because I want to make sure it's been really hard for me to stay focused lately. And I really want to, finish this presentation that I'm doing. And it's just so useful to have something sitting at my desk all the time that I can just make sure that I'm always in flow state. You see how I'm not talking about how it's keeping the water cold? That's just one it's what this product is allowing me to do as a person. It's the transformation. It's the outcome of what this product is allowing me to do. That is so much more of an effective integration when you're doing a partnership with the brand. What do you think about this? Do you guys like this? By the way, this is my wife's. She made this for me. She always makes me ice cold water on my on my live stream days. So thank you, Boo. I love you. Real quickly, I want to shout out a comment here from Mrs. Marvelous Restro. That is so smart. I literally did a gifted to paid by showing the results from a gifted video that way. Boom. Congratulations. That's huge. Molly in the chat says the post-campaign report is gold. Brands are always so impressed by them and often offer a second deal from that alone. Molly, holy cow, Molly. That's amazing and super impressive. I'm so proud of you. I'm so impressed by that. That's incredible. Man, I'm so thrilled. And you know what? I'm going to take a screenshot of that. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, so cool. I love taking screenshots of stuff like that. Okay, what other questions do you have? Hold on real quickly. Lola in the TikTok chat said, that's so true. It's not about the product, but what the product can allow you to do. Exactly. It's selling 101. Absolutely, Lola. Mrs. Marvelous says, I'm sold on the water. Haha. Yeah, see? I wish I had an affiliate link for it or something, right? The other thing I'll mention about this is like, you often get better at this stuff through repetition. My wife and I have done over 500 sponsorships over the last decade. And I've done like literally over 1,000 sponsorships through the agency when I ran it. And so honestly, the way in which I learned all of this is just by doing it over and over and over and realizing that like, oh, if we talk about this product in this certain way, wow, we actually sold a lot more stuff. That's really interesting, right? And so that's why it's just so incredibly important that you're here. First of all, let's do a little applause here. I want to congratulate each and every one of you who are here because like that is like what it's all about is like learning and getting better and understanding how you can improve because that is going to be ultimately at the end of the day the thing that's going to endear you to your brand partners because they just realize that you like care about the outcome of these partnerships. You want it to go well. You're not just in it for the money. I think that's like a really, really important insight here. Okay, whoa, we got a bunch of questions that I didn't even see. I'm like scrolling down here. Okay, let's see here. Gil says, I think there's Red Bull in that mug. No Red Bull. I can't drink Red Bull. I don't know why. It's just like hypes me up too much. Follow-up question here. I guess the reason that I ask is that if I want to build a case study on a campaign that had a conversion goal, then how can I demonstrate conversions? Yeah. Okay. So just quickly to just like put a bookend on this conversation, putting a contractual requirement in place where you're asking brands to say, hey, you have to share sales data with us, it actually may be that deal just doesn't get done because a lot of brands are just not going to be willing to do that. But I have found that when you actually take the extra step of having a conversation with the brand around why you want the data, they'll be more receptive to it. If you say, hey, look, you're telling me that conversion, sales, or whatever, that is the most important thing here, then I also have to know how this partnership ultimately performed so that we can improve it for the next time. I want to be able to see like how many clicks do we get? Like if we're sharing it in a bunch of different platforms on YouTube, Instagram stories, TikTok or whatever, it would be very helpful if we could have different links, different tracking links so that we could actually track what is being more effective. Perhaps that if there is like, let's say an Instagram stories component to this partnership and we see that, we're putting link stickers on every frame in this integration and like that drove 80% of the actual traction and click-through, then maybe the next partnership, we should like focus it on Instagram stories. We'll actually just do Instagram stories because you said that's what you actually care about. And we can actually measurably see that that's where most of the traction was. And you have this conversation with the brand, they're going to say, okay, I get that makes sense. We're not going to be able to share the actual data with you, but we can send you a spreadsheet, right? Which shows you how many clicks you got. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough to incentivize them to actually share this information with you. Again, it's like, that extra step of having the conversation of saying, look, like we want this to be a longer term thing. We want this to be a mutually beneficial partnership. And so this will allow us because again, the other thing too, is that most creators are not asking this for this type of thing. And so the very act of asking for it will oftentimes be a very productive, path that you can just go down with the brand for them to help, kind of understand why they'd want to provide that type of information to you. The other thing too, to realize it is that there are just going to be some scenarios where the brand is just going to say, no, we're not going to share it. No. Right. And so you just have to understand that like, okay, well, you can only do so much, right? A lot of times it's going to be the types of, situations where brands and agencies are not going to be willing to provide this to you is like you've probably seen there's these types of agencies out there where all they care about is a 60-second, how much are you going to charge me for a 60-second promo in your YouTube video or a 60-second spot, ad read in your podcast. I don't care about any, I don't want you to post on Instagram. I don't want you to do any of this stuff. I don't care about repurposing it. No, I don't care about any of that stuff. How much for a 60-second integration? That's all they care about. And like, I'll be the first one to admit, yeah, it's going to be tough to not only negotiate with those types of people because it's much more of a commoditized play, but it's also going to be challenging for them to provide any sort of data for you because if it's an agency, they may not even have data. Maybe the only person who has access to that conversion data is their client, and then they're not going to go to bat for you internally. Oh, this one influencer out of the 100 we're working with this month are asking for like data of like how they performed, and the brand's going to be like, no, sorry, we'll go work with this other person instead if this other person is being difficult. So it's just understanding, having the humility to understand that not every brand is going to be, willing to provide that information. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. Hello, happy mom in the chat. What's going on? Good to see you. Oh, I just killed the chat. What happened there? There we go. So yeah, I just wanted to provide that perspective. Lupe says, I will be back to uploading videos after a 3-year hiatus on YouTube. How soon can I begin pitching brands again? Thank you so much, Lupe. Today, let's do this. Come on, let's go. Just because you had a 3-year hiatus, one of the things that I would suggest in this situation is that probably what you're going to be pitching to the brand when you pitch them is not, when you're pitching to the brand, when you reach out to them is not, oh, let me talk about you on my YouTube channel. It's like, hey, I have this big body of work here. Yes, I realize that I haven't posted in a long time, but I am going to shortly. I would probably get a couple videos live, maybe before you pitch them to say, hey, I'm back at it. I'm posting content consistently now. But what I'm going to do for you is I'm actually going to create content that you can utilize on your YouTube channel, or you can utilize on your Instagram or TikTok or whatever. I have the ability, I have the expertise to create content. That's my strength. And so you use your platform as basically your portfolio, Lupe. And so that is really the thrust of your pitch in this type of situation. So I really don't want you to think that, oh, I got to hit, I have to make sure that I'm getting this many views per video, or per month or whatever on my YouTube channel before I can reach out to brands again. No, grease the wheels, get going now. And there's no reason at all why you can't pitch them some other creative ways in which you can serve them. Holy cow, we got Paul tuning in. Oh my gosh, Paul just gave me a $20 super chat. Paul, I appreciate you more than you know. Paul says, thanks for everything, Justin. I appreciate you and Dee so much. Man, right back at you, Paul. Really, really means a lot. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. Thank you. Good to see you, dude. Hope you're having a good Friday. Gil says, thank you, King, or should I say wizard? I appreciate that, man. I'm glad it was helpful. Okay, I think we have a question in the TikTok chat because someone signed on to my Instagram to say check the Instagram. Oh, he said every time my question is gone. Hold on, I have so many people tuning in on. Let's see. Oh, okay. Durag Dev the Goat. Here we go. I got your question, dude. Might be going to Coachella last minute. Any idea on how to approach brands? I'm going to be real with you, dude. It's going to be hard because it's very, very, it takes a long time to coordinate, execute, okay, I'm tripping on my words here. If you are wanting to pitch a brand for a last minute integration, let's say you're going to Coachella this year or something, right? And you're like, oh yeah, I'm going, like it's next week, or I don't know when it is, in 2 weeks or whatever. I really want to like partner with the brand. You have to realize like these brands plan these types of experiential activations like months and months and months ahead of time. They have to get approval with, Coachella oftentimes to do certain things, to have booths in certain areas, to, do certain like activations, whatever. And so you come into them 2 weeks like prior and say, hey, let's do an activation together. Maybe there's like a very small handful of brands that would be like, yeah, let's do this. The vast majority of brands are going to be like, you should have reached out to me 3 months ago about this. Right. And so this is the sobering truth of how long it takes to pull activations like this together when it's some sort of in-person event. The reality is yes, it's possible potentially, but in reality, it's too late. The reality is it's going to be too late to pitch a brand for something like this. And so, yeah, maybe you can pitch some sort of very low effort activation on their, like low involvement activation on their side. You could say, hey, I already own your product, or I already own your clothing or your thing. I'll just bring it with me and I'll post some content. All you got to pay me is XYZ, and I'll come to your booth and get some content. I'll share it with you. So it's like, it doesn't really involve much on their end to actually do it. Yeah, maybe you can hook some brands in that way, but they're just finalizing so many last minute details with these types of in-person events, and so trying to try and turn something around super quickly with you when you reach out and kind of pitch them, that is going to be very, very difficult. I'm just being totally real with you. Yeah. He says fair. Okay. All right. I'm glad that was helpful. You come to me for truth, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. This is the reality of things. And the other perspective you have to have is that the vast majority of creators are not known for their expediency. They're not known for their ability to turn around things quickly. They're not known for their ability to hit deadlines. This is a reality. I ran an agency for 7 years. And so, you may know that you're very, quick. You can turn things around with aplomb, and you have no issues doing that. And you try to reach out to a brand and pitch them like, oh, I can do this last minute thing. It's going to be awesome. The brand has this track record of working with all these other super unprofessional creators. And so they're going to be like, nah, I'm good. We definitely are not going to have the, bandwidth to be able to turn this around with you, knowing that most of the time when creators pitch stuff like that, they turn stuff in late, they turn things in that have issues. And so the magic, the spark that you're trying to, capture by doing an in-person activation, last minute turnaround, whatever, that you think it's going to be this amazing thing, all they are saying is PTSD from working with unprofessional creators. So you have to understand, just have this empathy, put your hat on of pretend you're the brand. Imagine that's most of their experience working with creators. And so, it's just going to take a little bit more empathy and understanding. This is how it is for them most of the time. Yeah. Lupe said, thank you so much. You're the best. Really, really appreciate it. No, I'm glad that that's helpful. Let's see. We got a question here from Jason. Okay. As a TTRPG business owner, I want to support smaller influencers. I've tried a couple deals and they have all failed horribly, ending in almost zero conversions. How do I justify more sponsorships? Well, this is a really interesting question. I love this one. The question above is because I want to know if I'm picking the wrong influencers or if there's something on my end I can allow me to put more money into influencers. So first of all, I'm going to be a total idiot right now, and I don't know what TTRPG means. Okay. Oh, tabletop role-playing game. Okay, sorry, I wasn't understanding what that abbreviation was. Okay, so let's dig into this. This is a really interesting case study. So Jason owns a tabletop role-playing game, and he's worked with some creators, and there was not a lot of conversions. So I'd probably have to know more context about who the creators were that you picked, the types of campaigns that they executed, what was ultimately the goal. So Jason, one of the key things that I teach creators, and it's also applicable for brands, is you have to understand, you have to really be conscious about what the goal is with your campaign. So is the goal to just spread broader awareness about your TTRPG? Are you going to be repurposing this content to run advertising, repurpose it on your social handles or on your website or something like that? Or is it to only just move sales, only drive sales of this board game or whatever it is? So it sounds like in your situation that all you cared about was moving units, moving sales. And so what I would probably have to do is analyze and look at the content that the creators ultimately created. So if knowing that conversions was the only thing you cared about, then the tactics that I would have suggested probably would have been very specific. So I would probably have done, probably would not have done in-feed Instagram posts, for example. I would probably only have done Instagram stories where there can be a link sticker on every frame. If you did do a YouTube video or a YouTube integration, then a very, very important part of this would be driving people to the link in the description box and making sure that there's a overlay text that the creator puts on the screen. Like that's a requirement of the partnership, is like, Justin 25, for 25% off your first purchase or whatever, click the link in the description box, right? You're like, it's a very specific way in which you're executing the content based on the goal of the campaign, right? If it's a brand awareness campaign, you're not saying stuff like that, right? There's no promo code. There's nothing like that. You're not driving to a link in the description box. You're just talking about the features and the benefits of the product. You're doing X, Y, Z. And so this is one of the primary things that we did when I ran the agency, is like, you really sit down with the brand and you think, okay, what are we actually trying to accomplish? Because we're going to not only execute the content and the platform strategy in a different way, but we're also going to pick different influencers. Because if you have a brand awareness campaign play, then maybe what you're doing is you're going to pick those mid-tier and macro creators. We're going to pick the hundreds of thousands of followers people, or hundreds of thousands of views per video people, versus if it's a conversion focused campaign, or maybe let's say it's a repurposing one, right? This is a good example. Let's say that the goal of the brand is like, we just want to get a bunch of content so that we can run ads. That's what we care about. Well, then we probably should work with only micro creators, because we don't care about how many followers they have. We don't care about how many views they're getting. We just want to get really compelling content. So we can actually stretch this, $10,000 budget or $100,000 budget. We can get a heck of a lot of content from micro creators. Then that budget would go a lot, wouldn't go as far with these like mid-tier influencers, because you got to pay them more, right? And so I guess the real answer here, Jason, is that it's highly contextual. I really would have to do kind of an overall analysis of like the campaign. But really, I think it's just the answer really is like being more intentional about the way in which you're executing the partnership and the types of people you're picking, and kind of working backwards from there. So hopefully that's helpful. I just want to give a quick shout out to Mama Mia, it's Kia. You have I don't even know how many likes you've done, because all I've been seeing is you liking the live like over and over, and I greatly appreciate that. Somehow I have 2.3 thousand likes on this TikTok live, and that's not normal for me. So I see you, Mama Mia, it's Kia. Thank you very much. Hushy says hello. Good to see you, Hushy. Let's see, man, this live actually absolutely flew by. Let's see. I think we got time for one more question. We got a question from Hello Happy Mom in the IG chat. Have you seen a slowdown on brand deals the first quarter of 2023? Yeah, I actually did a post about this in my newsletter. If you're not on my newsletter, by the way, it's creatorwizard.com/join. It's totally free. I send you paid sponsorships every single week. You see that call to action there? That was pretty dope, right? I'm totally shameless with my promotion myself, because you got to be as a creator, right? There's probably a bunch of people who joined this live in the last 10 minutes, didn't know I had a newsletter. Now you do. creatorwizard.com/join. It's totally free. Anyways, but yeah, I made a post about this. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen softness, I would say probably on the order of about 10%, quarter over quarter from last year. And it's actually a little bit deeper on certain content verticals. So like gaming, for example, comedy, political commentary, these types of niches are hit, a little bit more like 25%. But in a lot of other niches, no. I mean, like in what I would say kind of are like the family friendly niches, food, lifestyle, food, fashion, travel, these types of niches haven't really seen much softness. Again, like my experience is that in times of economic uncertainty, what brands will do is they will recede to the tried and true categories and the tried and true niches and creators that have worked for them in the past. And so they're going to be less willing to experiment with certain types of more bleeding edge content formats. And so that's another reason to have, in my opinion, to have a fairly kind of brand safe image that you're creating across your business as a creator. And so, yeah, I mean, again, like in terms of like the economic uncertainty, again, I do this a lot, like put yourself in the shoes of the brand. They don't really know what consumer demand is going to be for the next, like, let's say 12 months or something like that. Right. And so, they're going to be more conservative in terms of, their investments into tactics like influencer marketing, because picture yourself as the brand. Okay. like most consumer brands, let's say, they are spending money on Meta ads, Facebook, Instagram ads, pretty much every consumer brand's like that's part of the marketing strategy, like 100%, right? And so they know with relative certainty that if they put $1 into Meta ads, they're going to get on the other end of that ad spend $2 in return or $3 in return. They're going to get that $3 return on ad spend. That's what it's called, ROAS, right? ROAS. And so they know, okay, if we're going to spend $10,000, we're going to make $30,000 or whatever that formula is for the most part. When they work with creators, they do not have that same level of certainty. They don't know if they put $10,000 into paying you to make an Instagram post or a YouTube video, they are just not sure whether it's going to be 30K, whether it's going to be zero, whether it's going to be 100K, because they have a lot of experience working with lots of creators with lots of different following levels, lots of different views per video, and the performance across the whole is quite unpredictable most of the time. But the reason that they do it is because if they evaluate the overall tactic, they have a lot of different goals when they work with creators in terms of advocacy for the space and like all this type of things. And yeah, they may have had some like breakout successes, which was amazing, and which continues to, help them invest in the tactic, right? And so in times of economic uncertainty, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to recede to the tried and true methods like running paid Facebook ads, for example. And so one of the strategies that I recommend in these times of uncertainty is you go to the brand and you say, hey, look, I saw that you were running some of these ads right here. Like these are great, but I actually think I can make you some more compelling ads that will help you get a more efficient ad spend. Because I've been using your product for 3 years and, I can talk about the features and benefits. I can make like 5 or 6 different versions of the ads where I'm like varying the hook and I'm saying different messaging and I'm trying out different calls to action at the end. And you can just throw those all into the black box of the Meta Business Manager, Ads Manager, whatever, and see which one performs best. That service is going to be $5,000. I specialize in creating ads like this. What do you think? That's the pitch. It's not, hey, I'm going to be talking about you on my TikTok or on my YouTube video or whatever. That's not what you're pitching. And so one of the like primary reasons that I do these live streams every week is to help you think more creatively as a creator, is that you have to adapt to the times. Understand that, what is the mindset of brands right now? What is the mindset of advertising agencies? And do I need to adjust my pitching approach? Right? That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day is how do I need to adjust based on the macro conditions in my industry, but also, in the global economy, basically, right? So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. That's kind of how I approach this type of stuff. Hello, happy mom. Hopefully that was what you were looking for. Hushy says, I signed up for the Fiverr program and also joined their affiliate. Thanks for the link. And to anyone considering, it's a really great tool. I don't have a lot of following, but he sends lots of TikTok brand deals. Hushy, thank you so much. That really, really means a lot to me. And I'm so glad to hear that you signed up. Yeah, man. This live absolutely flew by today. Bree says, thanks for the awesome info, Justin, of course. And hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'll be back at it for another live stream next week. A little juicy little teaser that I want to share about the live stream next week is that I am going to be experimenting with a brand new format for my course, Brand Deal Wizard, where, normally, I know I do it 3 times a year. It's a live cohort where I teach it like live over Zoom, much kind of almost like this live stream. But I'm going to be experimenting with what I call a hybrid format, where a lot of the instruction that I'm going to be doing, that I do usually during the course, is going to be on demand. But there's still going to be a live component like office hours where you can, call in and ask, do like the Zoom call and ask questions and stuff. And so I'm pretty excited about this because it's going to mean that you'll be able to enroll in the course whenever you want, not just, only 30 days throughout the year, basically, because I have 10 days per like enrollment per cohort 3 times throughout the year. And so it's a very, very interesting change that I'm going to be experimenting with for my course. And so I'm really, really excited. So I'm going to be talking about a little bit about that next week on the live stream. So man, as with anything, like this is a, my business is like constantly adapting and evolving and I'm trying new things. And I just have this kind of playful attitude about it. Like I don't put a lot of pressure on whether or not something is going to work. And I just kind of do it and see what happens. Right. And if it doesn't work out, I'll stop doing it. Right. And so I'm just really excited about trying out this new format for doing the course. And, yeah, I'm still going to be, doing the live cohorts. But yeah, this is going to be something I'm trying out. So I'm excited. So, Anyways, hope to see you next week on the live stream. And I hope you have a wonderful Friday, and I will see you on the flip side. Peace.